Today's video is a requested tutorial, which is a pleated skirt with a zipper. So the pieces you will need are very easy. You will need fabric as much as 3 times your waist plus 10 or 15 centimeters extra, because pleats will take 3 times to fold. And then you will need a piece that is the length of your waist with 5 or 10 centimeters extra, and that is by how wide you want the waistband to be. So I want mine to be 3 centimeters, so it will be 9 centimeters times your waist plus a bit of extra. And this is what the skirt will look like. For this project you will need your fabric, matching thread and a zipper. I usually don't like invisible zippers, but this was the only one close to the color of my fabric, so this is what I have. It was requested that I show you how I cut my fabrics, so here we go. My fabric is 1.5 meters by 1.5 meters, so I'm gonna need 2 panels of 65 centimeters by 107. So the first thing I'm gonna do is cut out the excess of one edge so that I have 107 centimeters wide piece. And I've marked where I want to cut with a bobby pin. And because my fabric has stripes, it's easy to cut straight. But if yours don't, make sure to measure it from the edge and keep it straight so that you don't get any wonky lines. So mine is again very easy to cut, so I didn't have to do that. So we don't need this thinner part for now. And next up I want to cut my 65 centimeter long pieces, and because my fabric has a print, I had to choose lengths that showed the print the same way. So I marked it with pins so that I get these roses at the edge of the skirt. So if I cut here, I'm gonna have seam allowance to here, so this will be the bottom of the skirt. So I had to mark these with pins. Weigh your fabric down. And because I'm really lazy when it comes to pins and markings, I'm gonna slightly eyeball this, but you don't want to. Don't follow my example on this one, but so here is my next bobby pin. This will be the top of the skirt panel. So I'm gonna cut that next. And when I put it next to the edge of the table, I know it's gonna be pretty straight. So weigh your fabric down. And there we have one of the skirt panels. Next you want to cut your other skirt piece. And again I aligned the length of the skirt with the roses. And then the other edge. And then your skirt panels are done. So next I'm gonna take the long piece of fabric that I cut out the first time, and I'm gonna take this to make the waistband. So I want my waistband to be 3 centimeters, so I'm gonna take 3 times as much fabric as that, which is 9 centimeters. And again mark down the line that I will follow. And I'm gonna need it to be 68 centimeters long. But again I want to add a bit extra. And since I have all this fabric, why not? So I'm gonna make it 75 centimeters long. And I'm gonna cut it. After you've cut all your pieces, if your fabric is prone to fraying, you want to hem it. But as mine is not, I'm gonna move to the next stage, which is sewing the 2 skirt panels together from one side. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. And after that we can start pleating. Next up is pleating, and this will take a lot of patience and pins. And the first thing you need to do is decide how wide pleats you want. And because my fabric is quite thick, I want wider pleats, so I'm gonna make them 6 centimeters. But if your fabric is very thin, it may look better with smaller pleats, like 3 or 4 centimeters, but that is of course up to you. And there are many kinds of pleats, but the one I'm gonna be using today. So you want to mark your first pleat and take 6 centimeters, fold it under, like so, and pin it. And make the pins so that you can sew from the top. And then take 6 centimeters and fold it again like so. Try to make sure that the fabric is straight and pin it. And this is easier with printed fabric, but if you don't have a big print, you're gonna have to measure by hand and take again 6 centimeters. Mark it. Take another 6 fold it under. Like so. Try to make them go straight and pin it. So that this way you will get 6 centimeter pleats that open like so. And this is why this skirt needs to be 3 times your waist, because it takes 3 times to make the pleats. So just continue doing this to the whole length of your skirt. I'm gonna leave the last bit unpleated because this is about where the zipper will be. But after you're done with pinning in your pleats, we're gonna sew them together. So now I'm going to make a stitch along the top side to make the pleats secure. And while I do that, I'm gonna check that the pleats go nice and straight. And I'm gonna make 2 stitches to the top to really make sure that I don't lose any of the pleats. But I'm not gonna back up because I might have to take some of these pleats apart when I'm putting in the zipper. So just straight. And this is why I left room over the pins. You don't want to leave too much room, but enough so that you can sew right next to the pins without having to take them off. And again, I won't back up at the end because I might have to take this last pleat apart for the zipper. We'll see when I try this on for size. But now I'm gonna sew another stitch even higher up, just to make sure that I don't lose any of these pleats that I worked hard for. And I'm gonna leave the pins on for a moment longer. And now I can take the pins off, and this is what it looks like from the bottom. And next up we're going to attach the waistband. Making the waistband is another part that you'll definitely want to pin, because now we are going to make it fold in the front and fold in the back, so that you make sure that you cover the stitches that you just made, and that's why we made it close to the top. And in the back you want to make sure that the edge goes lower than on the front, so that when you sew you want to focus on the front. So you want to make sure that you get the back as well, so that if the front stitch goes here quite close to the end bottom, the stitch on the back will be about here, so that you can be sure that you're sewing the bottom part as well. And I'm just gonna leave the ends like this, because I don't know where the zipper will be. After this we're gonna sew the zipper and try this on for size, but for now I'm gonna focus on making the waistband. And if your fabric is very thin, you might want to put some support fabric on to the waistband, but mine is quite thick, so I don't have to. And again, you might need to measure to make sure that you keep the waistband the same width, but I have the stripes, so that will guide me. And just pin it as you go. And you want to pin it quite often. Make sure while you're pinning it that you put this as close to this edge as possible, so that you have filling inside your waistband, so that it's not too soft, and that will also make sure that you can't see the support stitches we did here. You want to sew close to the bottom edge, and again I won't back up because I'm not quite sure where the zipper will be. And I'm gonna take out the pins as I go. You really want to take your time with this. And you want to make sure that you're sewing the bottom part as well, and it is sewing. And again I don't back up, and that is the waist part sewn in together, and this is what it looks like from the back. Next is the crucial part of trying for size and sewing the zipper. So you can wear a small petticoat that will help you find the natural place for the skirt to be. And as you can see, I have a bit of extra because I left it so. So what you want to do is to make sure that you get a good size so that you don't make it too big, because then it will bag and it won't look good. But if you make it too small, it may not zip all the way up. So you want to take good care of marking this. So you need 2 pins and you want to mark where you want to put your zipper. So I have a bit extra on both ends, but that is only good. So I'm gonna get a close-up of how I'll put the zipper. I took the seams back and cut off the excess of both ends, and I also tucked the waistband a bit out of way. We're gonna return to these bits later. And I already pinned one side of it, so if you're using an invisible zipper like me, you want to pin it and you want to pin the fabric to overlap the zipper so that when you sew next to it, you won't see the zipper. So you want to put it to the top and pretty much so that the fabric and the zipper are on the same level. So I'm gonna go ahead and pin it to this side as well. And make sure that you don't twist the zipper while you're doing this. And that you put the zipper to the same height on both ends. And use lots of pins, because you want to get this right the first time. There is nothing I hate more than taking apart and re-sewing zippers. And open up the zipper as much as you can while you're pinning this. Close the zipper just to test it. And that is what it will look like when it's done. It's a bit wider than the 6 centimeters I have, but this is what it will look like. And we're gonna fold these on top of it so that it will look nice and neat, but we're gonna leave them for a moment longer. Tucked away. So now you want to sew it. Open the zipper back up as much as you can and start sewing. I don't have my one-sided pedal foot with me, so I'm just gonna make do with this one. And you definitely want to back up while sewing this. And if you have a bit heavier fabric like I do, it can be a bit tricky to sew on top of all of these and make it look pretty. But do as best as you can. And remember to sew very close to the zipper and as straight as you can, especially if you have a fabric that shows the stitch quite well. You want the zipper to be as invisible as possible, but still don't sew too close to the edge because then this zipper will easily jam. It's not easy, and that's why I don't usually use zippers. But with pleats you don't really have a choice. You can't put shirring on a pleated skirt because it simply doesn't work. So a zipper it is. Okay, and when you get close to the end, you wanna back up, and that side is done. That is one side of the zipper. So next you want to do the other side. I'm gonna cut these threads off. Pull that back. And sew the other side. And now try to end the stitch where in the same place where you ended in the other side. So I'm aiming there. Check that the zipper works. It works, and now you want to put this on you again so that if you made it a bit too small or a bit too big, it's easier to fix at this stage. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this on. It was a good size, so next we're gonna make the waistband look pretty. So what you want to do is take it. I'm gonna take a few more stitches away so that it's a bit easier to sew what I plan to do. So now you want to fold this in so that it looks nice and pretty. Tuck the loose ends in as well as you can. If there's still a bit too much fabric, you can cut away the excess. And now that it looks nice and neat, I'm gonna sew it from here and here to make sure that it stays that way. Put your needle down, lift the foot and turn. That way you get a crisp angle. It's so thick that it doesn't want to sew over, so I'm gonna lift the foot, move the fabric a bit and then continue. There, and now I'm going to repeat it to the other side. Once you're done with that, you want to sew the end together. So you want to close the zipper up a bit, turn the skirt upside down, and then look at where you left with the zipper. So what you want to do is continue sewing. You want to leave a small gap, but no bigger than 1 or 2 centimeters. And then you want to sew these two together from where the zipper ends. So you want to make sure that you're aligning them both and take the zipper itself out of the way so that you don't sew over the zipper and put it to the right side of the skirt, because we do not want to do that. And this may be something that you have to take a second take on, but once you feel like you have the seams where you want them, align it with your needle, and again leaving a small gap. You then start to sew the pieces together. Remember to back up so that the seam doesn't get pulled open. You don't want to sew the whole thing in case it didn't turn out that good. But it's okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and sew this all the way down. And take a final check that it looks okay. And it looks okay. So now, because we have a small hole, I'm gonna sew the piece of the zipper onto the seam allowance so that it does not poke through the hole. Because even though the hole is quite tiny, it's still big enough for the end of the zipper to peek through, and we do not want that. So I'm just gonna quickly sew it on. And this is what the zipper and the end looks like. Next you want to sew your hem, because this is the last bit to do. And I ended up with a small difference, so I'm gonna fold it in the favor of the shorter piece. So I have more seam allowance on the longer piece. And I'm gonna go ahead and sew around the skirt. And with that, the skirt is done. And if you have any questions about this tutorial, please ask them in the comment section below and I will do my best to help you. And if you have any other comments or requests or anything like that, put them in the comments as well and I will try to answer and do all of the requested things. And other than that, I will see you again next Wednesday. Bye!